everyone gets challenges in life. Everyone gets these kinds of moments where you get your teeth kicked in and you got to decide whether you're going to stand back up or not. And it is tempting sometimes to just roll over. Art, the process of creating something, is a vulnerable type of endeavor. It forces you to reach inside yourself, to hope for something, and to possibly fail while trying to do something that others aren't always going to encourage you to do. And creating is at the heart of what drives me. I'm always going to have the next up and the next down. Choosing to create kind of allows me to take what's good and bad and to accept it, to radically accept what my life is about and where I need to be. And I don't necessarily want to leave something behind for anyone else, but I want to not regret when I look back and know that whatever materials were handed to me, whatever ability I was born with, that I actually spent time using it.
1, 2, 3.
Well, I work with kids a lot. I've always found myself in situations where I'm teaching children, and now I have a 7-year-old, and he loves to paint, he loves to do art, he just loves exploring things, and that has definitely shaped my perspective on what art is about, and what art can do for an individual with respect to how they express themselves, and giving them an opportunity to create something from nothing, to shape reality. Because there are few opportunities when you're young and you don't have agency to really make something your own. You're always following someone else's rules. You're always playing within the boundaries of what's allowed, whether it be in school or in a game. When you have pencil and paper or clay, you can just create. So that's.
So you mentioned a few things that you're doing right now. So throughout the whole span of your life so far, and how you came into contact with art, what creative outlets in particular have been the most significant to you?
Oh, one of the most important things in my life has been I had some good teachers. I had one in particular named Miss Mikulski, and she had us read 3 banned books a semester. And by discovering dystopias and seeing how arbitrarily we ban things because we don't like them when they scare us, that opened my eyes and really spoke to me, because as a teenager I had all these thoughts that weren't always the mainstream or MTV or water cooler talk type stuff. So to read things like 1984 or The Giver, and to see these individuals finding their place in society, that made me feel like I wasn't nuts as a teenager, because nothing mainstream was saying, hey, it's okay to be really different. Other things that have shaped my art would be just everyone gets challenges in life. Everyone gets these kinds of moments where you get your teeth kicked in and you got to decide whether you're going to stand back up or not. And it is tempting sometimes to just roll over or to engage in something destructive. People have their coping mechanisms, and art, the process of creating something, is a vulnerable type of endeavor. It forces you to reach inside yourself, to hope for something, and to possibly fail while trying to do something that others aren't always going to encourage you to do. And creating is at the heart of what drives me. I'm always going to have the next up and the next down. Choosing to create kind of allows me to take what's good and bad and to accept it, to like radically accept what my life is about and where I need to be. And I don't necessarily want to leave something behind for anyone else, but I want to not regret when I look back and know that whatever materials were handed to me, whatever ability I was born with, that I actually spent time using it. Because the alternative, going back to, those dystopias, and a lot of the themes in The Giver, 1984, or Brave New World, are people that just, they're put in a role, and they feel like something's wrong, and they have a choice to either go along with it or to be different. When you pick up the wanted ads, you're not going to come across artist wanted very often. Maybe not in the sense of what I'm trying to do, because I want to shape other people's reality. I want to give other people an option to see themselves in a new light, or to experience something that might be mundane differently, or to accept something in themselves through what I'm doing. And it sounds really high-minded for like a caricature or for painting someone's face, but when kids come to me and I can transform them into what they want to be, and I see the change in their demeanor, how they're carrying themselves, what they are choosing to do, when I see how those changes affect the space that they're in. Like, one of my favorite first experiences in face painting was going to City Park and just painting kids for free and turning them all into tigers, and that playground turned into a jungle. And it was a wild experience. I didn't expect for those things to have that kind of effect. And kids don't always have opportunities to have that around them. They have TV, they have podcasts, they have their school, but how much time do we give to the arts? What popular, who's the Pablo Picasso of today that a child's gonna know about? Or at what point are they going to be given an opportunity to work with paint, or to work on a wheel, or to just create for the sake, because it's in and of its own self something that's worth trying to do. So when I'm in the public doing these things, I always have my eyes and my ears open. Kids always ask me, how'd you learn how to do this? And I'm always ready to tell them, go on YouTube, look at this book. Don't let anyone stop you. Don't let anyone say that this isn't a job, or this isn't a thing that you can like or do or learn about, because now more than ever you have the opportunity to teach yourself. I'm self-taught, and when I was younger, there wasn't any YouTube. There was just the library. That was it. And if you were lucky, you might know an artist or a photographer or someone that could share a few trade secrets. So I ramble a lot. My mind wanders. So trying to think of other main events in my life that have led to me doing art. I think another big one is actually the idea of harmony and its opposite, dysfunction. Whether it's in our communities or in the family unit. When I'm painting people, when I'm out in the public, when I'm being invited into people's homes, I see different ways that people structure their lives. I see people at all different levels of socioeconomic status. I see families that work well, and I see families that are really stressed out. And I have an opportunity as I'm performing my role, to memorialize the best events, the best moments in a kid's life or in a family's life, or to give sometimes, sometimes even give a kid a break from what their reality is. That matters to me. That is so much more rewarding than throwing boxes in a warehouse or doing any other kind of job. Honestly, I love what I do. I love that I, through my own will, kind of created a job for myself, one that no one was going to hand to me, and one where I'm always going to have opportunities to learn something new or to take what I do and wrap it up in a different way, have a new approach. Like caricature is about finding relationships and proportions in a person's face. I'm taking something that's two-dimensional or three-dimensional, and I'm representing it on a two-dimensional surface. Face painting and body painting is taking sometimes an image that's two-dimensional and wrapping it over a three-dimensional surface. So both can complement each other. Both teaches you things that you won't learn just doing one art form. And then those things, they work outward. The tools that you use, the techniques that you learn. If you're curious, if you like what you're doing, you're always trying to find a new way to approach something. And I have all these ideas that I want to try, but on a larger scale now because of working, within these small spaces like this mural. The challenge is to come up with something that looks good, that the general public can join in on, and not feel left out, not feel like they couldn't do this. And so one thing I learned through face painting is since time is money, since you want to be fast and you want to be able to give something that's detailed and dramatic, I learned to cut stencils. And I learned how to layer things in a certain ways that they look interesting and so that the colors pop out at you. And I think that's going to apply really well to this concept here. The trick is going to be how to make stencils 10 feet wide, 10 feet wide, 10 feet tall, to make some of these images. And I work with brushes and sponges. I don't know if there's a sponge big enough to stickle on this paint the way I'm imagining that it's going to work. But I really want to see everyone try and pull it off. I want to see what change I could make, not just in the community, but in like the individuals in this community taking a part in what their local area looks like in art that they're going to create. What kind of lasting impact will that have on people? Because you want to own your home. You want to have more to do with a place than just I happen to be born here, or I happened. Things are the way they are, and I can't change that. Being able to create a piece of art in public it's a good story. It's a good feeling. It's a good way of leaving your mark on what is your reality.
Are there any particularly inspiring ways of people impacting the community with something creative that you've either seen or read about or envisioned?
That's a good question. There's certain groups, organizations in the area that have good mission statements that I think make a difference. And what speaks to me is anything that has to do with putting a family back together, or giving people who may not have had, whose reality may have been a different style of family unit or different style of interacting with kids, giving them different tools, different approaches to grow within themselves, and also to perhaps break patterns that may have existed in their own childhood. There are cycles to all sorts of behaviors, and unfortunately, some of those behaviors are abusive, and it's important for parents, for people, or anyone that's in a position of power where you are being asked to advocate for someone who doesn't have the ability to get away from a situation. It's important to empower those advocates to know what would be in the best interest of their child, or their person they're caring for, or their client. And when I think of people that have made impacts in communities, you have the cliche ones. You have, I think of like the nonviolent movements that help get people their civil rights, and how much effort, patience, and determination it takes to outlove someone, to like fatally hug someone to death, to take violence and that destructive kind of energy coming at you, and to convert that into something that you create. Creating love, creating community, creating an understanding that you are a worthwhile human being. When I look at, when I think of people making a difference in the community, it's hard to think of an individual in the sense of like a famous person, or someone has a spotlight put on them. I tend to think of police officers, emergency personnel people, teachers, community leaders of all stripes. Everyone, has a little nudge that they give to put things in the right direction. And that's all I can think.
Oh, that's good, and definitely nothing wrong with ranting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that goes back to the, I'm creative, but I've also got ADD, so thoughts are always going 20 miles a minute.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of creative people are, and it's like I want to hear what's really on people's minds and hearts. So that's that totally works. Let's see. So how have you worked with some of the kinds of challenges that have come with a life focused on arts?
Well, when I hear your question, I want to reword it a little bit.
Go ahead.
My biggest life challenge is actually being a single parent to a 7-year-old, and art offered me a solution to many of the problems that come along with raising a kid by yourself. The world expects you to be a breadwinner. The world expects you to pay your bills, and to maybe work a 9 to 5. The world sort of expects fathers to take the role of being take a less nurturing role, and to trade that off for providing security for the child. When you are by yourself, it's hard, but I chose to just restructure everything. I chose to be there for my son, and to be able to nurture him, to be available for him, and also make a paycheck. And that meant choosing my own schedule. That meant losing the security of getting a weekly paycheck, it's guaranteed because there's guaranteed hours. It forced me to be an entrepreneur, to go out and look for doors to get slammed in my face because not all of them are going to slam. And it made my life really exciting. Art is the solution to the challenges that I have. It's not ever been something that I've had to, that's caused trouble for me. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd say that's that's pretty good. Let's
Thank you.
kind of wrap it up there. Thank you.